Hello, and welcome back to Visiting Dugout, a Fans First Sports production. I'm Chrystal O'Keefe. Today, I have my dearest friend Taylor on to chat again about the Cardinals. It has been a little while since
Yeah.
our teams have played. So, do you mind just reintroducing yourself?
Yeah, Taylor Streiff. I used to write for a blog called Redbird Rants, and I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I'm just, I'm not really on Twitter at all these days, or even Blue Sky or anything. So I'm kind of out of the loop on like the blogging sphere of Cardinals baseball these days. But I'm still a Deer fan, and I'm also a White Sox fan. So it's always cool to to talk to you. This is the third year in a row, so
I
this is
know.
great. Yeah, I have some qualms about the what is it, the balanced schedule, but
Mhm.
I do like the fact that our teams play each other once a year, no matter what now. So it's
And
great.
for the first time in 3 years, we get to actually hang out for this
Yeah,
game.
exactly,
Woo!
exactly. We get to hang out at the game on Thursday, so it's going to be great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Um, cool. So, what's new with the Cardinals? Last
It's new
time
with the
you
Cardinals.
hated the manager. Do we still hate the manager?
Well, I mean, it's funny. There was an athletic article about um, like the most like despised managers or something like that, and Ali was not named by name, but so some team in the NL Central, some player said whoever the Cardinals guy is, that guy. I guess I'll just go with that, and I guess it's easy to just hate the Cardinals. And people were actually yesterday the game got chippy against Milwaukee. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but Wilson Contreras stepped back. He's not a natural first baseman, and he stepped into the line and took out the base runner. And um, the Brewers bench, particularly Reese Hoskins, who's always chirping about something, had something to say about it. And then Wilson got hit, and then he hit a home run, and it was a whole thing. And then somebody commented, I saw a comment on Facebook or something that said, people seem to always have problems with the Cardinals. It's like, well, the Cardinals have been good. So, that's a thing too. But at the same time, there is a little I think I said Ollie needs to like chill out a little bit. And there's some of that. He's gotten better for sure, but there is a lot of just like sort of like, he's very like, I'm all business, and I guess that's how the Cardinals kind of are. But there is I would say his decision making is much better these days. I would say that he doesn't, his bullpen management has been good considering you know, everything that's going on in terms of like pitchers' health, and the bullpen was a disaster at the beginning of the year. But he's put guys in positions to succeed, which is I think is a good thing. But he's doing a much better job this year, and the Cardinals are a much better team. They were one of the best teams in baseball for a month there, and then decided or not decided, they just kind of fell off in the last week or so, and they hit two real hot teams at the
Hmm.
same time, and their pitching kind of fell apart. The Royals were making a little run there, and we ran into the Royals, which were pretty hot, and then Toronto has been probably the best team in baseball this month, and yeah, we just ran into them. They lost 6 games in a row until yesterday. So, uh, I think they're sitting at 37 and 34. And I think Milwaukee was sitting at like 38 and 34 or something like that. And so the joke is it's the battle of the mids right now. so that's just kind of where the Cardinals are at. Young team again. This was supposed to be a reset year, and
Hmm.
it didn't work out that way for them in the offseason. They were trying to trade Nolan Arenado, and that was like the big story. And it didn't happen. And now without Nolan Arenado, you could see how terrible this team would be. I mean, this would be a bottom of the barrel team without Nolan. I mean, they might be hanging in there, but I mean, when you get there's been a couple times where they put Nolan Gorman in at third base, and he's made errors, and you're like, that's why we have Nolan Arenado still. And should he be making $35 million a year? Maybe not, but he's there. He's not really the guy he used to be, but I still love him. So, but the Cardinals, much better team than they've been in the last 2 years. I would say it's actually a fun team to watch. So I've been to probably like 7 games already this year, and they're a fun team. They have some personality, so it's nice.
So we had discussed this previously about this upcoming series that the White Sox had kind of turned into fun bad, at least.
Right.
And the Cardinals are fun to watch. So this might actually be a good series, although they've been getting their heinies whooped in the state of Texas this week. But that's fine. It's whatever.
Sure. And Cardinals struggled in Texas again against that team as well, and this is going to be a fun series. I would hope, as long as I think there might actually be some offense, because I think that was the problem with the Cardinals for the last like 2 years. They had Turner Ward was their hitting coach, and he was Goldie's guy. Like Goldie brought him on, and he was an assistant hitting coach, and then he was the hitting coach the last 2 years, and you see like how terrible the offense was. And all they ever talked about last year during spring training and during the season 2 was, launch angle and like, let's hit home runs and stuff like that. And not only were they the worst home run hitting team in the league, they were probably like the worst team with runners in scoring position. I think they were one of them. And then it just was a bad offensive season all around. And even Goldie didn't come back, or they didn't even bring him back. He just went to the Yankees, and he's doing well with the Yankees this year. It's a different look for him. That's probably good for him. But at the same time, Turner Ward, I think, was responsible for a lot of the putrid offense over the past couple of years. They have a new guy named Brant Brown who came over from Seattle. And it was sort of a puzzling move at first, just because Seattle's offense has been pretty putrid as well. But, again, addition by subtraction and getting a new voice in there, that helped. So I think there's going to be some offense in this series. And also probably from the White Sox side as well, because the Cardinals pitching has been struggling. So I think this will be an entertaining series, to say the least.
So moving into that, how would you kind of rate what the Cardinals did in the offseason, since it is kind of a reset year?
Well, par for the course, they didn't do anything. Again, I don't know what Arenado's trade market really looked like. I mean, he has all the cards essentially because of his no trade clause, and he was able to veto the trade to the Astros, which initially looked like a good trade. I don't know what we were getting back. I imagine they were getting some sort of pitching back, maybe Hunter Brown or somebody like that. Again, I can't. That's just speculation. It's purely speculation, just based on what the Cardinals need. But at the same time, they had just traded Kyle Tucker to the Cubs, and after that, Arenado was pretty disenchanted with what was happening there. And then, but the whole thing of John Mozeliak, this is also his last year, and that's a name that just triggers so many Cardinals fans. And he had said multiple times, he's like, "That's our goal. We're going to trade a Nolan Arenado," and really he gave no reason other than the fact that they just wanted to dump his salary. And also they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a good time to move Nolan too." It's like we're all on the same page, and so. But they didn't. Again, that was Nolan saying, "I don't want to go anywhere unless I want to." Mm-hmm. So, good for him. I'm happy he's here, and he's having a good time. He wants to be a Cardinal, and he wanted to be a Cardinal when he demanded the trade from Colorado. Also, it was like, make this happen. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to St. Louis, and they did it, and we saw how that worked out for the Rockies. So they may break the White Sox record of futility, and I'm actually all here for it. The best thing that the Colorado Rockies right now can do is keep losing.
Yeah, I'm so conflicted because part of me wants Jerry to just like eat what he did.
Sure. The cat's coming into the shop, by the way.
Yeah, like oh no, you're fine. It's okay. This is a very animal friendly podcast.
Sure.
Part of me wants Jerry to just kind of own up to that, but then the other part of me is like, hey, the White Sox might not be the laughing stock of Major League Baseball this year, which would also be great. So it's tough.
Right.
Finding out where I sit with that.
But yeah. But I think with the Cardinals though, ouch. I think with the Cardinals, the big thing was this offseason that they tried to do is like, hey, let's open up spots so that the young guys can play. But then, Sonny Gray wanted to stay. So, he's there, but he's not really an ace, but he's the best pitcher on the team. Miles Michaelis is terrible though. I don't know why they can't just dump him. And when you have, seriously, you're halfway through the season at this point, and he did turn a corner there for a second, but the last start I saw him and he gave up a 3-run homer in the first inning, and the Cardinals were able to come back, tie the game 4-4, and then the next inning he wasn't able to hold it down. He gives up 2 runs, and yes, they were like lucky or blue pits or whatever, but the fact is that these are major league hitters making contact, and they're putting the ball in play up against the guy. And it's like we have Michael McGreevy and Gordon Graceffo and Quinn Matthews ready to make that next step. And it's like, why don't you see what they have in the tank instead of 36 or 37-year-old Miles Michaelis? The contract plays $18.5 million or whatever he makes right now, but it just doesn't seem like he's up to the task of being a major league pitcher right now. So I don't see why you just let him go. That was one thing I didn't understand about this offseason. You have young pitching, let them play. In terms of the position players, Victor Scott, he is the kind of lightning rod center fielder. He just makes things happen. He's like so fast, and he doesn't hit all that well yet, but he went through a slump. And Newt Barr was supposed to be like the new guy that was going to come up and everything, or not the new guy, but like the new team leader and all that. He's, I think, 1 for his last 35, or something like that. And Ollie said yesterday, he said, we're going to make a change at the leadoff position because you have to. You can't.
Yeah.
If your leadoff guy is going over all the time, but I think Newt was at like 250 or something like that in the last, month or so. Now he's down to like 222, and his on base percentage is terrible, and his strikeout rate's up to like 45% in this stretch too. So something's clearly not working for Newt right now, and that sucks. But again, trying to let the young guys play and prove themselves, and Newt's actually healthy, which is a great thing. And I love Newt. I think he's a great, I think he's a great guy also, but like also just like a great clubhouse presence. He's good for the team in a lot of aspects in terms of the intangibles and whatnot. But when you're not hitting, sorry, there's nothing much you can do. So, but again, Cardinals just need to, find ways to get their young talent into the games essentially. And that's hard when you've got some roadblocks.
So are you feeling good about this season in general? I know you said it's kind of a battle of the mids, and the Cardinals and the Brewers are kind of neck and neck right under the Cubs, which please pass the Cubs somewhere along the line. Like, knock those guys out, please. But how are you feeling just kind of overall?
So overall, I do feel like that this team is good. I think that if they go on another run, then they're a playoff team for sure. If they kind of stick to this, win 3 games, lose 2, win 2 games, lose 3. If they keep doing this thing, then they're a 500 ball club, and then they finish it, 81-81 or 82-80 or 79 wins, something like that. They're not going to be a good team. I think, though, there is a scenario though where they go on a run. I think that there's a scenario where they do kind of focus on what they want their pitching to look like, especially with the young guys, and they say, hey, in August and September we can make a run here with these guys and somehow sneak into October again, another great John Mozeliak ism is, well, anything can happen at the end of the day. And that's I mean, it's yes, Mozeliak made some really savvy moves to help propel the team to a 2011 championship. But again, that was 2011, and lots of things lined up in 2011 that you wouldn't think would have. And um, we'll see. I think that this is actually a good Cardinals team, though, compared to the last two seasons for sure. So I think that overall the Cardinals are looking good.
So with this team, this is kind of a question I'm just throwing at you since we're close to it, but who would you pick for the All-Star game?
Probably Sonny Gray. Honestly, I think that he's probably the best option there just because he's been the most consistent. Um, I would say I was thinking Brendan Donovan, but Brendan Donovan has been in a slump lately. He's the only guy on the team that's batting over 300. He was leading the league in hits and I think maybe doubles at one point. So if he kind of gets back on track here in the next month, he could be an all-star. But I would say Sonny Gray is the all-star right now. Wilson Contreras leads the team in RBIs, but he doesn't hit much. He's got not. I forgot to mention this. Even though I said the offense is better, there's no one on the team with 10 home runs. Everyone, it's pretty unbelievable to look at when I was just looking at the stats. And Wilson Contreras leads the team with 9 home runs. Everyone else has 8, 7, something like that. And Donnie's not a power hitter. I mean, he can get a hold of him sometimes, but he's not there to hit home runs. The big thing this year with Wilson moving to first base was like, you're a first baseman, you're a power position, you're going to hit home runs. It's not really doing it, and takes himself. I will say this. I love Wilson. I think he's a character. He takes himself really, really seriously, though. And he's so hard on himself. And when he just misses home runs, he has a habit of slamming the helmet down. And, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that just with the Cubs and everything. But at the same time, this team is they really don't have a superstar. And you wanted Jordan Walker to be a superstar, and there was some scenario. What was it? 3 years ago, where, or was it 2 years ago, where Cease was on the trading block?
Yeah,
it was like, oh man, just trade Jordan Walker for Dylan Cease, and I kind of was for that. I think that Jordan Walker would look sick in a White Sox jersey, and I didn't have any problem with that whatsoever, and I still love Dylan Cease. I think he's a great pitcher, but you wanted Jordan Walker to turn into a superstar. He hasn't. You wanted Nolan Gorman to turn into Kyle Schwarber. He hasn't. So it's hard to look at this team and say, hey, we've got an all-star here. It was really just Sonny Gray, in my opinion, and maybe Brendan Donovan.
So fun fact about Wilson, I was at his Major League Baseball debut game, and his very first at bat was a home run. And I was there. The Pirates were in town playing the Cubs. Blah, but I just wanted to see Andrew McCutchen. And Wilson Contreras was there. He came up to bat and hit a home run. And I have the baseball card. Again, it's whatever, but I have the baseball card highlighting it.
Sure.
It's somewhere in my collection. So I have a soft spot for Wilson.
Right. And again, I really wanted him to be. Yeah, I mean, he's doing well at first base. I will say that. Like, he's made the adjustment real well, but at the same time, in a power hitting position, you got to put up the numbers eventually. And I'm going to steal the line from Brant Brown right now. It's like there's a time to hit and there's a time to slug, and I feel like Wilson's going up there thinking home run every time right now. Yeah. He does lead the team in RBIs. Right now he'll end the season with like 90 RBIs and like 20 homers. And you can't ask for much more than that, but 30 and 110 would look pretty nice.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick break and pay some bills, and then we can talk about what the series will look like.
All right.
Okay, welcome back. So, the series with the Cardinals, we'll go into pitchers. The White Sox have no idea who's pitching. I have refreshed the probable pitchers page
Sure.
90 times this morning. We don't know because Jonathan Cannon is on the injured list right now, and it's kind of a mess. They just picked up a pitcher from the Brewers. Who knows what's going to happen? But we will see. Let me go back to my notes. So we'll see Matthew Liberatore, I can never say his name right. Yes, and then Sonny Gray, unfortunately, and then love of my life, Eric Fetty.
Eric Fetty on Thursday?
Yeah, we see Eric Fetty. Right. I'm hoping it is an Eric Fetty and either Shane Smith or Martin Davis. I hope one of those two are playing, because then I would just be so happy with my life choices.
Sure.
So yeah, we know Sonny Gray has been pretty good. Has 85 strikeouts this season so far, which is insane to me. Eric Fetty looks like he's doing okay.
So Fetty's biggest problem, he can't get out of the first inning without giving up runs. That's his biggest problem right now. And once he settles in, it's he's throwing the splitter and he's throwing his cutter and he's got a good, I don't know why they call it a sweeper. I still call it a slider, but he's got a sweeper slider kind of situation. And again, that's like where he puts guys away. Soft contact. He has the only complete game shutout that the Cardinals have had in the last like 2 or 3 years this year. And I want to say, did he do it on his birthday?
I think he did. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And against the Nationals, which was the team that drafted him. So I think that was, the baseball gods have a funny way of letting things work out. And, that was a cool moment for Eric Fetty. But again, I think he's a solid number 3 or 4 on any other team, or like on one of the better teams in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a solid number 2 for us right now, and I really like that. But again, the only game I've seen Fetty pitch, he gave up, I want to say 4 or 5 runs in the first inning, and he's got the worst, I think one of the worst ERAs in the first inning for starting pitchers in all of baseball. So the goal for Eric Fetty is just get through the first inning. And with Liberatore, it's kind of a resurgence season, again saying let the young guys play. Well, the whole thing with Liberatore is that they gave him the confidence to just be a starting pitcher. I think in the last 3 years, the biggest problem with Liberatore is they're like, well, you're going to make a spot start here. Okay, now you're going back to the bullpen, and now you got things to work on. So you're going back to Memphis. Like, they were just kind of stringing this guy along, not really giving him any confidence, and then telling him this year, hey, you're a starting pitcher. This is where you're at. I think because he hasn't been built up as a starter for the last 3 years, all I've noticed is that kind of around the 65 pitch mark, he starts to kind of lose his edge a little bit. And that's probably just a physical thing. But it seems like from everything I've read about it this year, his head is in a good place. And that's like the biggest difference this year is that, his head's in a good place. And the only game I've seen him pitch this year, he was awesome. He gave up 1 run and pitched, I think, like 6.5 innings. And then the Cardinals, of course, lost the game. So that's generally what's been happening. And you feel bad for him sometimes, but he was part of that Arozarena trade that everybody wants to point to and be like, Cardinals lost that trade. Well, Arozarena is maybe one of the worst hitters in the league now, and there's not much else you can say about that. Whereas like Libby, at I think only 26 years old now, could make the leap to being an elite starter, and you want to see that, especially with the next couple of years. I think he's arbitration eligible after this season, and so do you lock him up and And we'll see what Chaim Bloom, who's coming in, wants to do with these guys. So we've got to talk about that, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. But and then who was the last pitcher? Was well, you said Fetty, Liberatore, and Sonny. Well, we already talked about Sonny, so we're good.
Sonny, we're all familiar.
Yeah.
With him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I might be at that game too. I haven't decided yet. That's
Right.
Pride night, so it's like, well, I should. I should go see Sonny. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Might hurt my feelings, but it could be fun. Yeah, let's talk about Bloom here for a split second, because I totally forgot about that happening.
So John Mozeliak, I don't really have. There's, like I said, this is a triggering name for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, for Cardinals fans, because they think that he single-handedly has destroyed the franchise or something. It's like, I think he's made some really bad free agent decisions for sure. But he's been very savvy in terms of trades. The Dodgers were probably going to win the World Series last year.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers and the White Sox and the Cardinals were able to work around Tommy Edman and use him in all like of those trades. Essentially, it's like, Edman went to the Sox for Fetty, and then the Sox were able to trade Edman to LA, and he helped them win a World Series. Like that's pretty awesome. But again, Mozeliak was kind of behind all that and was able to get something done. And he always seems to have these like trades where he fleeces other teams. I mean, obviously Colorado is the most glaring one of them. I would say Arizona is another one of them. And because, I mean, Carson Kelly and Luke Weaver, who were part of that Goldschmidt trade, were not, I mean, Luke Weaver did great things for the Yankees last year, is still a great relief pitcher. Carson Kelly's now, I think, where is Carson? Is he with the Cubs? I think he is.
Yeah.
So, but again, Mozeliak's one of those guys that he's made some really bad decisions in the past, and I think his worst decision that he's made was firing Mike Schilt. It still makes no sense to me. We'll never know what happened there. I think though that Schilt ran his mouth a little bit. And hey, and when you win 17 games in a row and you set the franchise record for wins, I feel like you have all the right to say something's wrong here. And I think at the end of the day that Schilt probably was right. He probably noticed something about the Cardinals farm system and the way that they're developing guys and saying like, hey, I need more help here, or we need more help. We need to invest money into the minor league system, or whatever it was he said that got him fired. And so, excuse me, bringing in Chaim Bloom was really just as an advisor role to kind of see, hey, how do we revamp the minor league system and bring something new in? And that turned into Chaim Bloom essentially taking over what's the assistant general manager role right now. Excuse me. And he's going to be the president of baseball operations starting next season. So we'll see what happens here. I'm really kind of excited to see what happens, but I could see in like July or August, Mozeliak really stepping back and being like, Chaim, you running the show now. Like, you want to make this team a playoff team? Like, let's kind of see what happens here. But I think in the offseason, I don't know if Ollie makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't. And Mozeliak did his best in an interview to kind of pump up Ollie and give him like some public confidence. But at the end of the day, this is Chaim's team in 2026. And however far the Cardinals go in the playoffs or whatever it is, this is Chaim's team. And Chaim's going to hire his guys. So we'll see what happens after that. And I think that, again, if ownership gives Chaim the ability to kind of lock up the younger guys and kind of look at the Braves model, I think that that's like a really good model for a lot of teams out there. If you got guys like Mason Wynn, who have proven themselves to be a top player, buy out arbitration and buy out 1 year of free agency and give them an option. I think that that's like the best way to go about that. You see Libby right now. You maybe think about locking him up at the end of the year, things like that. I don't know. I think Chaim thinks in that way. Again, he was hamstrung by a lot of ownership issues in Boston, and everyone points to the Mookie Betts trade. He was forced to trade Mookie Betts. I don't know how many times everybody has to say, like, remind people of that. They're like, oh, Chaim Bloom, he traded Mookie Betts. Well, ownership told him to trade Mookie Betts. Like, that was the biggest thing. And so it is what it is.
He is a very divisive figure when you talk to anyone that likes the Red Sox, because Bailey, a co-host on another show, will sing his praises. But then I can talk to another Red Sox fan and they think that he is the worst person on the planet and made all of the mistakes. I kind of fall in the camp of, I think he's perfectly fine and perfectly capable. And is honestly pretty smart. And maybe this is just Bailey's influence, but I've always kind of been in that camp of, I think he's doing just fine. And I think he was able to build a pretty solid Red Sox team. So I don't know.
No, absolutely. And you see kind of the fruits of his labor now with these guys that have come up. Is it Abreu that's out there, or is that his name? I don't remember. All I know is that was a disaster for the Cardinals on national TV. And that was a Michaelis meltdown, as I like to call it. Where Jordan Walker was being interviewed by ESPN in right field. And, Michaelis has this meltdown. And there's one where this dude, I think it was Abreu or Bregman, who I absolutely can't stand Alex Bregman. but Bregman or somebody hit a home run. And all you hear is Walker yell what he's supposed to yell, which is "get back." It's like, and it went like over the green monster. You're like, okay, well, you didn't have to say "get back" there. You can just say that's gone.
Yeah, coming back from that.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but again, Boston's got one of the better farm systems, and they've used their farm system to build up like major league talent, or to trade for good major league talent as well. And Boston was probably a landing spot for Arenado as well.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out because they wanted Alex Bregman instead.
Have you seen the Green Monster in person?
I haven't actually been to Fenway Park yet.
Completely bonkers.
I know. I need to get there. I don't know if I'm believe it or not, even though I lived in Chicago for 11 years, I'm afraid of heights. I don't know if I could ever sit on top of the Green Monster, but I'd like to go to Fenway Park soon.
I sat kind of next to it. And the entire time I'm just like, oh my goodness, how is this legal in baseball? Why is this here? Yeah, bonkers.
Right. And I think that it is fun about, if we're going to go on a slight tangent about the, dimensions of baseball parks. I think that that's an amazing thing about baseball is that, yes, in terms of, base paths, pitching, all that stuff, 90 feet, 60 feet, that stuff's going to stay the same. The rule of three is going to kind of always dictate that. But once you get in the outfield, it's like fair game. You see San Francisco has got 420 feet into the corner in right center field and then a brick wall.
Yeah.
And Colorado obviously has to have a huge outfield. And stuff like that. I think that this is like just such a cool part of baseball in general. And while you have the White Sox and the Cardinals who have pretty run-of-the-mill stadiums, and dimensions, also Baltimore just deciding that they're going to move their left field wall back.
Yes.
Sure, great. And people have they call it getting bushed at Busch Stadium because there's something about the dimensions of the ballpark or the wind or something where, a guy will hit a ball that is tattooed and then it just dies. And I don't know if it's weather related or whatever it is. And people in St. Louis are like, well, why don't we just move the fences in? It's like, so we can be the Yankees of the National League? I don't think so. And I do think that the Yankees, I'm going to be honest with you, that's a little league park. 315
Thank
feet
you. Because
line.
I have that exact same thought. That
Sure.
was my immediate thought upon entering Yankee Stadium. Is this the Little League ballpark?
It's 315 feet to right field. I haven't hit a baseball 300 feet since I was 15, but but I feel like if I kind of got a good one out to right field, it would probably go. So
Yeah, I was so unimpressed with Yankee Stadium. And people are like, I can't believe you'd say that. And I was like, there's nothing special about Yankee Stadium. I'm very sorry, nothing.
That's fine.
So that goes on with how I feel about the Yankees in general. Nothing special.
Sure. Oh, actually, I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
you have this ownership change that's like put in. So what is it exactly? Because they say they have a plan so that in 2035,
Yeah.
someone else takes over. Is Jerry gonna make it to 2035?
I won't wish any harm on anyone on a public episode that's behind the paywall kind of thing. The man is 89 years old.
Sure.
Will he even make it to 2029? Probably not. And that's the whole thing. So nothing can even happen until 2029. And this whole thing, I've tried to look at it, and I think I got like a brain bleed from trying to fully understand what they're doing with this. But nothing can even be done until 2029. So that's the earliest anybody can take over from Jerry. Justin can take over from then, basically. But he doesn't have full control of the team until like 2036.
Right.
So even if Jerry passes, his kids are still going to have this larger chunk of the ownership.
Got it.
Through 2036.
Sure.
But they can basically say, yes, we have a bigger chunk of this ownership, but Justin can come in and take on this ownership role.
Mhm.
So right now he's just very much lower end with his ownership of the White Sox. But yeah, so it's a jumbled mess, and I'm hoping that in 2029 the kids are just like, please Justin, just take over, and we're going to completely walk away from the White Sox, and we're also going to completely walk away from the Bulls and just make the city of Chicago happy. That's my hope.
Sure. No, I get that. Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about but also with like the Cardinals, Bill DeWitt is the same thing. He is 85, maybe 86 now. And his son doesn't seem, if I'm going to be quite frank, doesn't seem like a baseball guy. He's a business guy.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime he's in a press conference and people are asking him stuff, it's all this business gobbledygook about, profit margins and revenue and all that stuff that we don't really want to hear, and I think it's people forget that the DeWitt family is a baseball family.
Yeah.
While Bill Senior right now, or Bill Junior, I should say, Bill Senior was part owner of the Reds at one point, but Bill Junior right now, I think he still lives in Cincinnati, and his son lives in Lake St. Louis, which is not really St. Louis. Let's be honest with you. So when they say, hey, we're trying to bring, downtown, we're trying to revitalize all that. It's like, okay, so why though? Like, is this really about St. Louis, or is this about you guys still? And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I really don't think that Bill DeWitt III has any interest in the Cardinals whatsoever. So once his dad passes, we'll see what happens. If he can make $5 billion selling the team, that's probably what he's going to do. So.
I feel a similar way with Michael Reinsdorf. He is far more invested in the Bulls, and Jerry has kind of given him the Bulls. Like, that's kind of his little gift.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't seem to care enough about the White Sox. Can't really say that I blame them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that when the time does come, Michael does just kind of say, here, this is your problem now. I will either just step away from sports and make my money or just stick with the Bulls. But yeah, so I'm hoping, and I always think about that kind of meme. It's like, Lord, I see what you've done for others. I want that situation like with the Mets, where the Wilpons are finally gone and a billionaire baseball nerd comes in. That's my hope and dream for the White Sox. So
Yeah. Now,
hoping,
would you spend $750 million on one player though?
no,
Yeah,
no,
that's what
no.
I'm saying. Yeah.
I love Juan Soto, but no, I wouldn't have
Right.
done that.
And it's a whole thing though. I think if the Cardinals had signed Albert Pujols to a huge contract, that would have honestly, it may have ruined the Cardinals for a decade.
Yeah.
And Albert Pujols maybe hits 800 home runs. I mean, that's the other thing that you look at. You're like, oh man, like, if Albert had stayed, what does his time in St. Louis look like? But at the same time, do you sign a player like that? I think history has shown, maybe other than Shohei Ohtani, that it's not worth it to spend this kind of money on people. And it just is what it is. So
Juan has at least started to show signs of life again.
sure.
I mean, I was at Citi Field in April and people were still very actively booing him. And I'm like, leave this man alone. Why am I defending like a man who's almost made $1 billion this year? But I mean, they were still very actively booing him and just being so horrible to him. And I was like, give him some time to adjust, man. You try to go do that.
Right.
That's kind of what I always say to people who are like just completely shitting on good players. I'm like, you try to go do that for a second. You try to reacclimate and all this. But yeah, he at least started to hit the ball, which is great. But yeah, I still think he was very much overpaid.
Right. And again, what is he, only 27?
Yeah.
26, 27. So that's like, that's you dream of a free agent like that. and there's some emotional maturity there that could be needed.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen an argument. Trevor May made a point the other day where he's like, how many teams are actually winning from the Juan Soto trade? I think the Padres won that trade.
Oh yeah.
By trading him when they did to the Yankees. And you could argue that the Nationals won that trade as well, trading him to the Padres. So, does the team that received Juan Soto actually benefit from having Juan Soto? Maybe. It's debatable. So
Padres have sadly won like all of their trades. They continue to win their trades.
Sure. And I always make the joke, and I never realized this about their late owner, that he kind of opened the bank and was like, just do whatever you want kind of thing. But I always made the joke that whenever who's that president of baseball operations there? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's like a video game GM. He just kind of does whatever he wants, and he's like, I'm just going to make this trade. You're like, how did that happen? and then it's worked out. So, I mean, I'm still sad about Dylan Cease in a Padres uniform, but I am a Padres fan only because I'm a Mike Schilt fan.
That's fair.
And Mike Schilt is like probably my favorite manager in baseball still, and will be for a long time. And it will never make sense to me why he's still not a St. Louis Cardinal. So
I have no ill will towards the Padres. I will root for the Padres if I see fit, because I love Dylan Cease so much that it's hard not to. Mm-hmm. All right, back to this series, I guess. Yeah. So the biggest threat on the Cardinals right now to the White Sox, who do you think that would be?
Well,
this could be a pitcher. I mean, you could very easily just say it's going to be Sonny Gray.
I mean, it has to be just the pitching as a whole. I mean, they got to, as long as the Cardinals score some runs and the pitching holds up. I mean, I always make the argument. It's like if you score 6 runs in a baseball game, you can't give up 6.
Yeah.
And then that's the most frustrating thing about this Cardinals team sometimes is that, they get up ahead and they get up early and then the pitching starts to fall apart about around the 6th inning or something like that. Ryan Helsley, who, set the franchise record in saves and he throws 102 miles an hour, has been, I think he's blown 5 saves this year, and I think he blew 4 all last season. So he's been pretty inconsistent, but I think just the league knows, hey, it's either fastball, slider, or curveball with this guy. And so if you're looking for 99, you can hit it. Major league players at least can hit it. So I think the pitching as a whole is the biggest threat to the White Sox if the pitching can stay together and stay consistent. Offensively, like I said, there's just too many. It's good that some guys are heating up. You don't have 6 guys in a slump right now. You have 2 guys in a slump right now with Nootbaar, and I guess you could argue that Donnie's in a little bit of a slump, but Donnie's also got I think he's got a foot or a toe issue right now. So there's some of that, but at the same time, I think that it's just going to be the pitching as a whole is the biggest threat to the White Sox.
So with that, what would the keys to taking that series be for the Cardinals?
Just pitch. Just pitch well, honestly. I mean, the Royals were not a very good offensive team when they came to St. Louis, and they put 7 spots on the Cardinals. So, you can see what happens when the Cardinals aren't pitching well, and just play baseball, play solid baseball, and just keep the offense in check, especially with the White Sox. Because, sometimes we've seen it. We've talked about it. We've texted where I've been like, what's going on with the White Sox today? Yeah. It's like they scored 12 runs in 4 innings. Just it happens that way sometimes. So, baseball's funny that way.
Yeah.
And who knows? Benintendi, he lives in St. Louis in the offseason. And we'll see. He may go off this series. We'll see.
Need him to go off. He's been really hot or cold this season, and he's been injured too, so that could be why. But he's been really in this cold streak lately. I need him to do something. But I don't know. I'm sorry that you saw a good Royals team. I saw a pretty bad Royals team in person for 2 games in a row. So sure. I don't know what that's like. We beat them.
Sure.
So won that series just for me.
Just for you.
They're like, oh, Crystal's here. Kyle Teal's up. We're going to win this series.
Right.
So with that, and maybe even this is just kind of in the same vein of your fears heading into this series.
Sure. Fears?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Cardinals don't do anything offensively. And I could see that happening because, like you said, we don't know who the probables are.
Yeah.
And the joke in Cardinal Nation is that when you want to beat the Cardinals, you either bring up some soft tossing lefty, that throws 92, or you bring up a guy that no one has ever seen or heard of before. And you just do that, and that's how you beat the Cardinals. And I think, honestly, that's kind of where we're at with some stuff right now. And, I do have a bad feeling that if there's not really any scouting on the Cardinals, then on the Cardinals side, then there's a high chance that the offense just doesn't have anything or any idea of what to do. But I think sticking with the Brant Brown philosophy, there's a time to hit and there's a time to slug. That's great, because with the Turner Ward philosophy, seemed like let's get into 2 strikes and then flail all over the place. So I think that if the Cardinals are able to hit, that's a good thing. But I'm very fearful of the fact that they don't have a ton of scouting reports on the White Sox. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and the pitching has been so topsy-turvy. Overall, White Sox pitching has been great.
Sure.
there's always the unknown, and they were actually just talking about this on the broadcast. Gordon Beckham has been
Okay.
in Texas, unfortunately,
Yeah.
on the broadcast, and John Striffen had said, how did players prepare for these bullpen games? Because that's what it was for the first game
Sure.
against the Rangers was a Rangers bullpen game, and they still won. But they were talking about that, and Gordon very much said, I hated bullpen games because of that same reason. You don't know what you're going to see at any point, at least with, a normal starting pitcher. You're like, okay, well, this guy throws this, and I can expect this from him, and he walks a lot of people, whereas you pull out some random relief pitcher, and you're like, who the hell is this guy, and what is he going to throw me? So, yeah, that should be interesting to see just in general. And the White Sox might have a bullpen game for all we know, because again, has not been consistent as far as
Sure.
pitching.
Yeah, and I think that spells bad news for the Cardinals. Although the bullpen game, I went to a Detroit Tigers game, and hey, give it up for Detroit. They're one of the best teams in baseball right now, and AJ Hinch is doing a great job there, and they got a lot of talent. And Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, give it to them. I mean, they were fun to watch. I will say that. But the game that I went to, the Cardinals did win, and Sonny pitched out of his mind, so that was awesome. But it was a bullpen game, and the Cardinals did end up winning that. But it was funny. I didn't know it was supposed to be a bullpen game, and AJ came out and got his starter in the first inning, and they brought in this other guy who ended up throwing, I think, 65 or 75 pitches, and it's like, why didn't they just start that guy?
Yeah.
So I thought it was an odd choice, and I probably, it was probably to give extra day of rest or whatever. But AJ's on another level in terms of his managerial strategy. So I'm sure there was a reason for it.
How do you feel about? So that reminds me. How do you feel about this Cole opener for your starter? Because Jonathan Cannon has needed it a little bit this season. He's had a brutal time in first innings. His ERA is very high in those first innings. And you mentioned Eric Fetty struggles with the first inning. So how do you feel about this kind of weird opener role this season? I've been seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, I think maybe the Cardinals could benefit from it, and I could see that happening. So they're in a stretch right now of 23 straight games. There is no days off for the Cardinals right now, and it's hard to believe that the Cardinals approved that. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes in terms of logistics when you're making a schedule and all that, and it's hard to believe that in June that the Cardinals are playing 23 straight games. It's crazy, but again, that's just what they want to do. I think they were preparing their players for this. I think that's a big reason why the Cardinals also have lost 6 games in a row up until yesterday, was that they're looking at this stretch and they're all thinking about, oh my God, when do I get to go out and hang out anywhere? When do I get to have my own time and stuff like that? It's hard for sure. But in any case, with the opener stuff, the Cardinals have suggested maybe using a 6-man rotation. But we have Steven Matz out there in the bullpen, and he actually has been kind of resurgent as a long reliever. And so I think that's an option in at some point one of these days. And letting Matz go out there for a couple innings or something like that. But again, they're looking at the 23 game stretch, and you're you don't want to burn any of these guys out. So that was a reason why McGreevy, started the other day. They brought him up just for a game, but I think McGreevy's out of options. So I think next time McGreevy comes back, he's here to stay, and hopefully that means Miles Michaelis is gone. We'll see.
I only hope for you that that's the case.
Exactly, but I do I think it's an interesting strategy to use an opener. But if it's to keep guys healthy and all that kind of stuff, that's great. But it could backfire at some point, so we'll see.
Yeah, of course. So we've already done this a little bit, but before we wrap up, kind of moving away from our respective teams, what else are you seeing that you would like to just talk about for this season?
from a baseball standpoint, just in general, lots of, I mean, maybe just like baseball, like stuff in general, I think is fun because like there's so many weird things that you don't see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the ballpark or like in between innings and stuff. It just seems like, and again, it's hard to believe that we're 5 years removed from
From no one in the ballpark.
no
Yeah.
one in the ballpark. And maybe it's just because I'm more present these days. But it was cool. I went to see the Dodgers play the Cardinals in the last series that they played here, and it was with my dad, and that was awesome too. But there was cool stuff happening between the players, between innings and stuff, and I feel like there's more of that's back. Like there's a little more like banter between teams. There's some chippiness for sure. Have we seen bench clearing brawl this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
White Sox have just recently had one in Baltimore.
Oh, that's right. And
Yeah.
let me be honest with you. That was some Bush League clown stuff. Was that Mayo or
Yeah, it was
that
Mayo.
was his name? Yeah. I mean, that was just stupid.
Yeah.
I that's right. I forgot about that. And let's see. I think just all the fun, just ballpark stuff. Always dogs at the stadium. Love dogs at the stadium.
Yes.
There's been some my friend and I, we joke about this. There's been some elite hot dog content this year. And that stuff's fun too. But I just, again, I think just the pageantry and just like being at the ballpark, all that kind of stuff. I think that's like something that I hope that baseball starts to focus on a little more again, to make it, because it's obviously the NFL is the most popular thing in America right now. And I think it's easier to get behind because it's only 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a short like season and all that. Whereas like baseball, it's like, oh my God, it's 162 games. Whatever. That's why I love it, because you're in it for the long haul. In terms of, like I said, like teams, Detroit was amazing to watch. I find it hard to believe that Los Angeles can continue to sustain their sort of season that they're in without the pitching that they have. But maybe this is by design.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that they are keeping these guys on the I guess it's sorry, I almost said DL, IL. Yeah, I think on the IL, maybe by design. Maybe they're like, hey, we bring these guys back in August, and then we make a run, and then we destroy everybody through August and September with Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell and and whoever they've got. And I do find it interesting too. It's unfortunate if we're going to talk about pitching injuries, the Tommy John, it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, you lose Garrett Cole at the beginning of the season, and now Arizona's just lost Corbin Burns. Like this is a huge issue, and it's something that definitely needs to be addressed. And you look at guys like Yamamoto and Sasaki who have stayed healthy, and maybe there's something to be said about the way that American pitchers are being brought up these days and being taught to throw. And is it all about velocity right now? Can Yamamoto, honestly, the way that he pitches, sometimes it does remind me a little bit of Greg Maddux. Doesn't have the control of Greg Maddux, but it's just in terms of like, this is the pitch I'm throwing here and the strategy and all this stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So hopefully, I think we'll see a trend in the next couple seasons of guys going back to like pitching instead of throwing. Not saying that Garrett Cole or Corbin Burns do that. I mean, they're pitchers, but they're also, I think, they're max effort guys. They're going out there and trying to throw as hard as they can, and we've seen what happens, and it's kind of sad, honestly, to see what's happening to these pitchers. And like I said, going back to Glasnow and Snell, they're making $30 million a year. to
Yeah.
maybe pitch 12 games a year. It's not great. So
I miss the more kind of workhorse pitching ethic, like Johnny Cueto. I
yeah.
love Johnny
Oh yeah.
Cueto, and that's the type of pitching I prefer. They're workhorses. They get through. They're not all about being fancy and throwing 100 miles an hour. They come in, they get the job done. They're phenomenal, and they're not constantly injured with their arms falling off. So bring that back. Also, before we do wrap up, I
Sure.
meant to bring this up way earlier. Lance Lynn has finally retired. Not finally. I love Lance Lynn, but
Yeah.
he's done, and he was last with the Cards.
So Lance is on a podcast now.
Yeah.
And he's always entertaining, and he's as like kind of grumpy as ever, and I always love that about him. But yeah, Lance is a fan favorite, I think. He's one of my favorites just because of how fiery he is, and he's not afraid to speak his mind, which I think is funny too. But at the same time, just watching him, he just likes to compete, and he even he tried to make teams as a reliever, or say, hey, I can close games or whatever. Could you imagine Lance Lynn as a closer? I mean, he's getting fired up and everything, but again, Lance is probably gonna. I would like to see him wear a red jacket.
Yeah.
For Cardinals Hall of Fame. I mean, he helped them win a World Series in 2011, and he had some real good years there. And but I definitely miss the guy. I think I want to say he lives in like Marion, Illinois, which is about 2 hours away from St. Louis. But again, just a great Cardinal, and he definitely one of those guys that is just like, man, like it's a kind of an end of an era. You have Matt Carpenter retire as well. So it's hard to think about like that. But I love Lance, and we wish him nothing but the best for sure. And the fact that he's still kind of around as a Cardinal fan as well is cool. So
I watched him play in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not too far. He lived not too far away from where I spent all of my high school years, and I was into baseball then, so I would watch him because he was getting a lot of buzz. I mean, he was generating quite some buzz just in high school alone, so I kind of had to follow and see where that trajectory went. So it was pretty cool for me when he got called up, and we're the same age, so I was like, well, that's neat. We didn't actually know each other. I just knew of him. But yeah, so I was happy. I also felt really old when he did retire because we're the same age.
No, I get it. And it's hard to think about. I mean, I'm 35 now, and Sonny Gray is 35, 36. And, it is hard to think about. It's like, man, like, I don't feel old. That's for sure. I mean, I do some days, let's be honest with you. But to go out and compete at the highest level and be able to do that every day at 35 years old, I think I could see why some guys are like, all right, now I'm nearing the end of my rope here after doing that for 20 years. I mean, you're 15 and you're kind of thrust into it. So, but yeah, you do it for 20 years, I could see it. So
Buster, I had a really similar feeling when Buster Posey retired, because again, we're the same age, and that was like one of the guys I grew up with, because I was a big Giants person because of Buster and Tim Lincecum. So I was like, woof, okay, well, he's retired now. Lance Lynn is retired. I'm really starting to feel my age. Those late 80s babies, we're old now.
It was a joke last year when I was still with the Redbird Rants crew. I would always say, like, I'm in between the age of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Like, literally, I am. I think Paul Goldschmidt's 37 and Arenado's 34 or 35, and I'm right there in the middle. I'll be 36 in a couple of months, but I think about that sometimes. And I've met Goldie. I haven't met Arenado, but I met Goldie, and I was like, this dude's only a couple of years older than I am. Like, man, where did I get the short end of the gene pool?
Right. Can you think about either one of us actually playing baseball? No, absolutely not.
Hey, man, I had some aspirations there for a minute, but then when this kid Danny Sambrink, he ended up going to Stanford and getting a full ride to play baseball there. Made it to Double-A when he was in high school. He's throwing 95 in high school, and he was the big pitching prospect.
Yeah.
In St. Louis, and I couldn't see 95, and that's kind of when I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I could see 95 off the bat, but not 95 from 60 feet away. When I was standing in second base, that was different. So.
Well, that's what I've got for you. Thank you, as always, for coming on. It's always wonderful to talk to you.
It's great. I know we kind of, went all over the place like we always do. And, Kat had to make a cameo and scratch my back a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game on Thursday, and it's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, Chrystal.
Of course. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. Best of luck in the series. Can't wait to hang out.
Absolutely. I'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.